my pickup truck chose the worst possible moment to betray me. Steam poured from under the hood like smoke signals announcing my latest failure, and I found myself stranded on Highway 94 with nothing but my pride and a cell phone showing 2% battery. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, Nathan Cross, owner of Cross Auto Repair, standing beside a broken-down Ford that I couldn't fix without tools. 20 years of marriage, 15 years running my own shop, and I still felt like life was playing some cosmic joke on me. I called Lena, my wife, but got voicemail. Typical. She was probably at that fancy gym again, the one that cost more per month than most people spend on groceries. I had no choice but to walk the 3 miles home and borrow her precious Lexus to pick her up. The house felt empty when I walked in, even though Mrs. Halpern next door was watching me through her kitchen window like always. That woman knew everyone's business better than the local newspaper. I grabbed Lena's spare keys from the kitchen counter, the ones attached to a little silver charm that read, "Success." The Lexus started with a purr that my truck never managed, even when it was new. Everything about this car screamed money and status. Leather seats that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, a dashboard that looked like it belonged in a spaceship, and that new car smell that somehow never faded despite being 2 years old. I drove to Platinum Fitness, the upscale gym where Lena spent most of her evenings working on herself. The parking lot was full of expensive cars, each one a monument to someone else's success. I parked between a BMW and a Mercedes, feeling like an imposter. Eddie, the security guard, was standing by the entrance when I walked in. He was a big guy with kind eyes and a knowing smile that made me uncomfortable. He'd been working there for years, watching all the drama unfold between the members. "Hey, Nathan," he said, reaching behind his desk. "Your wife left her gym bag. Figured her husband would be by to pick it up." The words hit me like a wrench to the gut. Her husband? I was her husband. Who else would Eddie think was her husband? "Thanks," I managed, taking the bag with hands that felt suddenly clumsy. Eddie's smirk told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't the first time someone had come for Lena's bag, and I wasn't the someone he was expecting. I carried the bag to the car, my mind racing. Inside the Lexus, with the doors locked and the air conditioning humming, I opened the bag with the careful precision I used when disassembling an engine. Her workout clothes were there, along with her water bottle and towel. But underneath, I found things that made my stomach twist. A hotel keycard for the Riverside Inn, a handwritten note that said, "See you at 4, Suites, room 215. And her phone, which she'd apparently forgotten in her rush. The phone wasn't password protected. Lena always said she had nothing to hide. The irony of that statement burned as I scrolled through her messages. There it was, a text thread with someone named D that made everything crystal clear. "Can't wait to see you today. Bring the wine." "Already in the room. You're incredible." This is so much better than being stuck at home. I sat in that Lexus for 20 minutes, reading 2 months' worth of messages that painted a picture of betrayal so complete it was almost artistic. My wife of 20 years was having an affair with someone named D, and they'd been using hotel rooms like their personal playground. The smart thing would have been to confront her immediately. The emotional thing would have been to scream and throw things. But I'd spent too many years fixing broken machines to react without a plan. When something's broken, you don't just start swinging a hammer. You figure out what went wrong, gather your tools, and fix it properly. I drove home with Lena's secrets burning in my pocket and a plan forming in my mind. Mrs. Halpern was still watching from her window, and I gave her a friendly wave. She'd be useful soon enough. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Lena came home at 7, full of apologies about her phone and grateful that I'd picked up her bag. She kissed my cheek with lips that had probably been kissing someone else a few hours earlier, and I smiled like nothing had changed. "How was the gym?" I asked, watching her face carefully. "Oh, the usual. Cardio, some weight training. Doug pushed us pretty hard today." Doug. So D was Doug, and he was her trainer. The pieces were falling into place with mechanical precision. "Doug sounds like a real taskmaster," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "He's just really dedicated to helping his clients reach their goals," she replied, already heading for the shower. While she was upstairs, I did what any good mechanic does when diagnosing a problem. I gathered more information. I'd bought a GPS tracker 6 months ago to keep track of my work truck after it was stolen from a job site. The little device was sitting in my toolbox, unused since the truck was recovered. It took me 5 minutes to attach it to the underside of the Lexus, hidden behind the rear wheel well, where Lena would never think to look. If she was meeting Doug regularly, I'd know about it. The next morning, I went to my shop early and called my best friend Trish. Patricia Kowalski had been my buddy since high school, and she'd never liked Lena. Trish ran her own motorcycle repair business and had a talent for seeing through people's lies. "You sound weird, Nate," she said when I called. "What's going on?" "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you ever seen Lena around town with another guy?" There was a pause that told me everything. "Why are you asking?" "Because I found evidence that she's cheating, and I want to know how long this has been going on." "About 6 months," Trish said quietly. "I saw them at Murphy's Diner a few times, and once at the movies. I didn't know how to tell you, Nate. I'm sorry. 6 months. Half a year of lies and hotel rooms and secret messages." I thanked Trish and hung up, then spent the rest of the day working on a transmission rebuild while my mind worked on a different kind of problem. The GPS tracker showed me everything I needed to know. Lena's routine was predictable. Gym on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, followed by 2-hour stops at the Riverside Inn. She was consistent, I'd give her that. On Thursday, I decided to see Doug for myself. I drove to Platinum Fitness during the afternoon when I knew Lena wouldn't be there and asked about personal training rates. The receptionist pointed me toward a guy in his early 30s with perfect hair and muscles that looked like they'd been sculpted from marble. "Doug Peterson," he said, shaking my hand with the kind of grip that was meant to impress. "I hear you're interested in personal training." "My wife recommended you," I said, studying his face. "Lena Cross. She says you're really helping her reach her goals." His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "Oh yeah, Lena's great. Really dedicated. You're a lucky guy." "That's what everyone tells me," I replied. Doug was everything I wasn't. Young, handsome, and confident in the way that only comes from never having to struggle for anything. He drove a motorcycle that probably cost more than I made in 3 months, and he wore clothes that screamed success and youth. I signed up for a trial membership I had no intention of using, and left with a business card and a clear picture of my enemy. That evening, Mrs. Halpern cornered me while I was checking my mail. "Nathan, dear," she said in that conspiratorial whisper she used when sharing gossip, "I hope you don't mind me saying, but I've seen your wife around town with a young man. I just thought you should know, in case it was important." "What kind of young man?" I asked, playing dumb. "Handsome fellow, rides one of those loud motorcycles. They seemed very friendly." I thanked her for her concern and went inside, adding another piece to the puzzle. If Mrs. Halpern had noticed, half the town probably knew about Lena's affair. I was the laughingstock of the neighborhood, and I didn't even know it. That night, I lay in bed next to my wife and listened to her breathe while I planned my revenge. She'd made me look like a fool, but she'd also underestimated me. That was going to be her biggest mistake. Friday afternoon, I put my plan into motion. I'd spent the week studying Lena's patterns like a mechanic diagnosing an intermittent problem, consistent observation until the pattern revealed itself. At 2:30, I called her office using a voice I'd practiced until it sounded nothing like mine. "Mrs. Cross, this is James Mitchell from Peterson Industries. We're looking for a marketing consultant for a major project, and your name came highly recommended. Would you be available for a dinner meeting tonight? It's quite urgent, and the compensation would be substantial." I could hear the excitement in Lena's voice. She'd been trying to land bigger clients for months, and Peterson Industries was exactly the kind of account that would boost her career. "Of course, Mr. Mitchell. Where would you like to meet?" "The Riverside Inn has an excellent restaurant. Shall we say 6 o'clock? The irony was perfect. She'd be at the same hotel where she'd been betraying our marriage, but this time she'd be waiting for a client who didn't exist while her lover waited in room 215. At 4:15, I drove to the hotel and parked where I could see the entrance. Doug arrived first, carrying a bottle of wine and looking like a man who owned the world. 15 minutes later, Lena pulled up in the Lexus, checked her appearance in the mirror, and walked inside. I gave them 30 minutes to get settled, then made my second call. "Platinum Fitness, this is Eddie." "Eddie, this is Nathan Cross. I'm calling about my wife's car. She asked me to have it towed for maintenance, but I wanted to make sure she didn't need anything from it first." "Oh, sure thing. She's upstairs with Doug right now. Want me to go ask her?" "No, don't bother them during their session. I'll just have it towed and she can call me when she needs a ride." Eddie was quiet for a moment. "You sure about this, Nathan?" "I'm sure about everything, Eddie. Thanks for your help." I called Trish next. She ran a towing service on the side, and she was more than happy to help when I explained the situation. "You want me to tow Lena's car while she's in there with her boyfriend?" Trish asked. "I want you to tow it to your shop and keep it safe. She can have it back when she's ready to be honest." "This is going to be interesting," Trish said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. At 5:30, I watched Trish's tow truck pull into the hotel parking lot. She worked with professional efficiency, hooking up the Lexus and driving away while I followed at a distance. At 6:00, I was sitting in the Riverside Inn restaurant, watching Lena pace near the entrance while trying to call her fictional client. She looked confused and frustrated, checking her phone every few seconds. At 6:30, she went outside and discovered her car was gone. I watched through the window as she stood in the parking lot, turning in circles like she couldn't believe what was happening. My phone rang at 6:45. "Nathan, someone stole my car. I'm at the Riverside Inn, and the Lexus is just gone. Can you come pick me up?" "The Riverside Inn? What are you doing there?" "I had a business meeting, but the client never showed up, and now my car is missing. Please, can you just come get me?" "I'll be right there," I said, and hung up. I took my time driving to the hotel, stopping for gas and coffee while Lena waited in the parking lot. When I finally arrived, she was standing next to Doug, both of them looking frustrated and confused. "Thank goodness you're here," Lena said, climbing into my truck. "This is Doug, my trainer from the gym. He was just trying to help me figure out what happened." "Nice to meet you, Doug," I said, shaking his hand again. "Thanks for looking out for my wife." Doug nodded, but he looked uncomfortable. "I should get going. See you Monday, Lena." He walked to his motorcycle and drove away, leaving Lena and me alone in my truck. "So, what was this business meeting about?" I asked as we drove home. "Peterson Industries. They wanted to discuss a marketing contract, but the guy never showed up. I waited for over an hour." "That's strange. Did you try calling them?" "The number just goes to voicemail. I think it might have been some kind of scam." "Probably," I agreed. "Good thing Doug was there to help you out." "He was just being nice. He saw me in the parking lot and stopped to make sure I was okay." Bah, the lies came so easily to her that I almost admired the skill. She'd turned a secret meeting with her lover into a story about a helpful trainer and a mysterious business client. "We should call the police about the car," she said. "Already did. They said car thefts happen all the time in hotel parking lots. We'll file a report tomorrow." That night, Lena called her insurance company and filed a stolen vehicle report. I listened from the kitchen as she described the last place she'd seen the Lexus, carefully omitting any mention of Doug or room 215. She was getting better at lying, but I was getting better at catching her. The insurance investigator called Monday morning while Lena was at work. I'd been expecting this. Filing a false police report tends to attract attention. "Mr. Cross, we've located your wife's vehicle. It's at Kowalski Motorcycle Repair. The owner says you authorized the tow?" "That's correct. My wife was confused about the arrangement. She thought it was stolen, but I'd actually scheduled maintenance." "I see. We'll need to close the claim then. There might be penalties for filing a false report." "I understand. My wife was just panicked when she couldn't find the car." After I hung up, I called Lena at work. "Good news," I said. "They found the Lexus. Turns out there was a miscommunication about the maintenance I scheduled. You can pick it up at Trish's shop this afternoon." There was a long pause. "What maintenance?" "The transmission service you mentioned last month. I thought I told you I was having it done." Another pause. "I never mentioned any transmission service, Nathan." "Really? I could have sworn you did. Anyway, the car's fine. Trish says everything checks out perfectly." When Lena picked up the Lexus that afternoon, Trish made sure to mention how clean the interior was, especially the passenger seat. "Your husband really takes care of this car," Trish told her. "Even vacuumed out all the wine stains." Lena's face went white. "Wine stains?" "Just a few drops on the floor mat. Barely noticeable. Nathan said you'd been to a client dinner recently." That evening, Lena was quiet during dinner. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. "Trish seems nice," she said finally. "She is. We've been friends forever. She knows everything about me." "Everything?" "Everything that matters." The next day, I made my second move. I'd been thinking about Doug's motorcycle, that expensive symbol of his success and youth. It was his pride and joy, and he parked it in the same spot every day at the gym. I didn't damage it. That would have been illegal. Instead, I left a note under his windshield wiper, written in handwriting that looked nothing like mine. "I know what you're doing with married women at the Riverside Inn. Stop, or everyone else will know too." That afternoon, I watched from my truck as Doug found the note. His reaction was everything I'd hoped for: panic, confusion, and a quick scan of the parking lot to see who might be watching. He called someone immediately, and I was willing to bet it was Lena. My phone rang 20 minutes later. "Nathan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Are you having me followed?" "Why would I have you followed?" "Someone left a threatening note for Doug at the gym. They mentioned the Riverside Inn." "That's where your car was stolen, right? Maybe someone saw something." "Maybe," she said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Lena, if you're worried about something, we should talk about it. I'm your husband. You can tell me anything." "I'm not worried about anything. I just think it's strange, that's all. Strange things happen all the time. Remember when Mrs. Halpern thought she saw you with another man? Turned out it was just someone who looked like you. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Mrs. Halpern said that? Last week. She was all apologetic about it. Said she realized she was mistaken. You know how she is with gossip. Right. Gossip. That evening I installed a security camera in our hallway. It was perfectly legal. My house, my camera. I made sure Lena saw me doing it. What's that for? She asked. Home security. With all the strange things happening lately, I thought we should be more careful. What strange things? Your car getting towed, threatening notes at the gym, neighbors seeing people who look like you around town. It's probably nothing, but better safe than sorry. She went to bed early that night, and I heard her making phone calls from the bedroom. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was urgent and worried. The camera recorded everything that happened in our hallway, including Lena leaving the house at 11:30 p.m. and returning at 2 a.m. She was careful to park down the street and walk back, but Mrs. Halpern's motion sensor light caught her coming up the driveway. The next morning I had breakfast ready when she came downstairs. You're up early, she said. Couldn't sleep. I kept thinking I heard someone moving around the house. Probably just the old pipes. Probably. Hey, did you know the security camera has a motion detector? It records automatically when someone walks by. Her coffee cup rattled against the saucer. That's good. Very secure. I checked the footage this morning. Interesting stuff. Want to see? I'm running late for work, she said, grabbing her purse and heading for the door. I was winning, and we both knew it. By Thursday, Lena was making mistakes. She forgot to delete text messages, left hotel receipts in her purse, and started jumping every time the phone rang. Doug wasn't handling the pressure any better. Trish had seen him at 3 different bars, drinking alone and looking over his shoulder. I decided it was time to introduce them to some new players in our little drama. Maya Rodriguez had been Doug's girlfriend before he started training rich housewives at Platinum Fitness. Trish knew her from the motorcycle scene, and according to the gossip, Maya was still bitter about how things had ended. She caught him cheating with a client, Trish explained over coffee at my shop. Same pattern he's running with Lena. Guy's got a type. Married women with money and low self-esteem. Think she'd be interested in some payback? Maya? She's been waiting 2 years for the chance. I had Trish arrange a meeting at Murphy's Diner, the same place where Lena and Doug had been seen together. Maya turned out to be a small woman with fierce eyes and a smile that could cut glass. So you're the husband, she said, looking me up and down. Doug always said married men were clueless. Doug talks about married men often. It's his specialty. He targets wives who feel neglected, makes them feel special, then bleeds them dry. Your wife's been paying for his motorcycle insurance. Did you know that? I didn't know, but it explained some irregularities I'd noticed in our bank statements. What do you want from him? Maya asked. I want him exposed for what he is. I want everyone to see the truth. And your wife? Same thing. I want the truth to come out. Maya smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. I can work with that. She started immediately. Social media posts about Doug's pattern of targeting married clients, anonymous tips to the gym management about inappropriate relationships, and carefully placed rumors in the circles where Doug tried to network. By Friday, Doug's phone was ringing constantly. Angry husbands, concerned gym members, and his boss all wanted explanations he couldn't give without admitting to the affairs. Lena was getting calls too. Maya had done her research and found 3 other wives who'd been involved with Doug over the past 2 years. When they started comparing notes, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Someone's spreading rumors about Doug, Lena told me Friday evening, saying he's been inappropriate with married clients. That's terrible. Is it true? Of course not. Doug's a professional. Then he should be able to clear it up easily. It's not that simple. People love to gossip, especially about attractive men. Once rumors start, they take on a life of their own. Like the rumors about you? She froze. What rumors about me? Mrs. Halpern mentioned that people are talking, something about you being seen with Doug outside the gym. I told her it was ridiculous. You'd never risk our marriage for some trainer. Right. Ridiculous. I mean, what would be the point? You have everything you need right here. A husband who loves you, a nice house, financial security. Why would you throw that away for someone who probably just wants your money? Lena went upstairs without saying another word. Saturday morning brought the breakthrough I'd been waiting for. Maya called with information that changed everything. Doug's been bragging, she said. Told his buddy Rick that he's got Lena wrapped around his finger. Said she's going to leave you and they're going to start a business together with your money. My money? Joint accounts, house equity, your shop. He's been researching divorce law, Nathan. They're planning to take you for everything. The revelation hit me like a punch to the stomach. This wasn't just an affair, it was a calculated plan to destroy my life and steal everything I'd worked for. There's more, Maya continued. Doug's got photos. What kind of photos? The kind that would make a divorce very expensive for you. He's been documenting everything, building a case to make you look like the bad guy. I thanked Maya and hung up, my mind racing. Lena wasn't just cheating. She was planning to frame me as an abusive husband and take half of everything in the divorce. The woman I'd loved for 20 years was preparing to destroy me completely. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me again. I spent Saturday afternoon at my shop, not working on cars, but planning the endgame. I had evidence of her affair, proof of her lies, and now I knew about their plan to rob me blind. It was time to stop playing defense and go on the attack. Sunday morning, I made breakfast and served it to Lena in bed. Her favorite, French toast with real maple syrup. What's the occasion? She asked. No occasion. I just wanted to do something nice for my wife. She smiled, and for a moment I saw the woman I'd married 20 years ago. Then I remembered the photos Doug had taken, the money she'd been stealing, and the lies she'd been telling. Lena, I said, sitting on the edge of the bed, I want you to know that whatever happens, I've always loved you. That's sweet, Nathan. I love you too. The words sounded hollow, but I smiled anyway. Good, I said, because love means never having to say you're sorry for what you're about to do. She looked confused, but I was already walking away. The final phase was about to begin. Monday morning, I put the last pieces of my plan into motion. I'd spent Sunday night copying files, organizing evidence, and preparing for war. My first stop was Platinum Fitness. Eddie was working the early shift, and he greeted me with his usual knowing smile. Morning, Nathan. Here to work out? Here to clean house, I replied, handing him a manila envelope. Everything's in there. Photos, text messages, hotel receipts, bank statements showing money transfers. Doug Peterson has been running a scam on married clients, and the gym needs to know about it. Eddie opened the envelope and whistled low. This is serious stuff. It gets worse. He's been taking photos of his conquests and using them for blackmail. Your gym is going to be liable if this gets out. I'll get this to management immediately. Make sure you do. And Eddie, thanks for all your help. You're a good man. My second stop was Lena's office. I'd called ahead and scheduled a meeting with her boss, Mr. Tilling, under the pretense of planning a surprise party for Lena's birthday. Tilling was a thin man with nervous eyes who clearly enjoyed office drama more than he should have. When I showed him the evidence of Lena's affair and her plan to embezzle money for her new business venture, he was practically salivating. This is very concerning, Mr. Cross. Very concerning indeed. We can't have employees involved in scandals that might reflect poorly on the firm. I'm not asking you to fire her, I said. I'm just giving you information you might need if certain rumors start circulating. Rumors? About married employees having affairs and misusing company resources. I'd hate for the firm's reputation to suffer because of one person's poor choices. Tilling assured me he'd handle the situation with complete discretion, which meant Lena would be facing some very uncomfortable questions by the end of the day. My third stop was the bank. As a joint account holder, I had every right to move our money to a separate account for investment purposes. It wasn't theft, it was asset protection. By noon, I'd transferred everything except a few $100s to an account that only I could access. When Lena tried to use her debit card for lunch, she'd get a very unpleasant surprise. My phone rang at 12:30. Nathan, there's something wrong with our bank account. My card was declined. That's strange. Let me call them. I pretended to be on hold for several minutes, then came back with bad news. They say there's been suspicious activity on the account. Someone's been making large transfers to an unknown account. They've frozen everything pending an investigation. What? How is that possible? I don't know, but they want us both to come in this afternoon to sort it out. I can't. I'm having problems at work, too. Mr. Tilling wants to see me about some complaint. What kind of complaint? He wouldn't say. Nathan, I think someone's targeting us. First the car, then the threats to Doug, now this. Maybe we should call the police? And tell them what? That someone's playing pranks on us? These aren't pranks, Lena. Someone's trying to hurt us. There was a long pause. I need to go. We'll talk tonight. She hung up, and I smiled. The pressure was building exactly as I'd planned. That afternoon, Maya called with an update on Doug's situation. He's finished at the gym, she said. They fired him an hour ago. Security walked him out and told him not to come back. What about the other women? 3 of them have filed complaints. Apparently your evidence gave them the courage to come forward. Doug's looking at serious legal trouble. And his motorcycle? Repo Man took it this morning. Turns out he was behind on payments. Everything was falling apart for Doug Peterson, and I felt a satisfaction that was almost mechanical in its precision. Like a well-tuned engine, every part of my plan was working exactly as designed. Lena came home that evening looking defeated. Her meeting with Tilling had apparently not gone well, and the bank situation was adding to her stress. "They're investigating me at work," she said, slumping into a chair. "Someone made allegations about my personal life affecting my professional judgment." "What kind of allegations?" "They wouldn't be specific, but Tilling kept asking about my relationship with clients and whether I'd been using company resources for personal business." "That's ridiculous. You're the most professional person I know." She looked at me with something that might have been gratitude or suspicion. "Thank you for saying that. It's the truth. You're my wife, Lena. I know who you are." "Do you?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with meaning I pretended not to understand. "Of course I do. You're the woman I married, the woman I've loved for 20 years. Nothing could change that." She started crying then, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Nathan, I need to tell you something." "What?" "I've made some mistakes, big mistakes, and I'm afraid you're going to hate me when you find out." This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. She was ready to confess, to beg for forgiveness, to try to salvage what was left of our marriage. "I could never hate you, Lena, but I already know about Doug." The words hit her like a physical blow. She stopped crying and stared at me with wide, terrified eyes. "You know?" "I've known for weeks. The hotel receipts, the text messages, the lies about where you've been. I know all of it." "Then why didn't you say anything?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Mrs. Halpern's house, where I knew she was probably watching us. "Because I wanted to see how far you'd go," I said. "I wanted to know if the woman I married was still in there somewhere, or if she'd been completely replaced by someone I didn't recognize." "And?" I turned back to face her and let her see the truth in my eyes. "She's gone, Lena. The woman I married would never have done what you've done. She would never have planned to destroy me for money." Her face went white. "How do you know about that?" "I know everything. The photos Doug took, the business plan, the divorce strategy. I know you've been stealing money from our accounts to pay for his lifestyle. I know you were planning to frame me as an abusive husband and take everything I've worked for." She tried to speak, but no words came out. "The question now," I continued, "is what we do next." The final confrontation came sooner than I expected. Tuesday morning, Lena was gone when I woke up, along with her clothes and anything valuable she could carry. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter that was almost insulting in its simplicity. "Nathan, I'm sorry. I need time to think. Don't try to find me. L." I crumpled up the note and threw it away. After everything we'd been through, after 20 years of marriage, she was running away like a teenager caught sneaking out. But I knew where she'd gone. The GPS tracker was still on the Lexus, and it was showing a location I recognized: Doug's apartment complex on the east side of town. My phone rang an hour later. It was Maya. "They're planning to leave town," she said. "Doug's been telling people he's got a new business opportunity in California. They're loading up the Lexus right now. Let them go." "What? After everything they've done to you?" "Maya, I appreciate everything you've done, but this ends now. They want to run away together. Fine. They can have each other." "You're just going to let them get away with it." "Who says they're getting away with anything?" I hung up and made a series of phone calls. The first was to the police, reporting that my wife had taken our jointly owned vehicle without permission after emptying our bank accounts. The second was to her credit card companies, reporting the cards as stolen. The third was to the hotel where I knew they'd try to stay, warning them about fraudulent credit cards. By noon, Doug and Lena were stranded at a gas station on the highway with no money, no credit, and a car that was about to be reported stolen. My phone rang at 2:00 p.m. "Nathan, please, I need help." "Where are you, Lena?" "At a gas station outside of town. My credit cards aren't working, and I don't have any cash." "That's strange. They were working fine yesterday." "Please don't do this. I know you're angry, but I'm still your wife." "Are you?" "Because wives don't usually steal money and run away with their boyfriends." Silence. "I'll come get you," I said finally. "But just you. Doug can find his own way home." "He doesn't have anywhere to go. They fired him, and his apartment lease is up." "Not my problem." Another silence. "Nathan, I know I hurt you, but we can work this out. We can go to counseling, start over." "Start over?" "Lena, You were planning to destroy my life. You were going to take my house, my business, everything I've worked for, and you were going to do it by lying about me in court. I never would have gone through with it. Really? Then why did Doug have a folder full of fake evidence? Why were you meeting with divorce lawyers? She started crying again, but this time it didn't affect me. I'll pick you up in an hour, I said. Be ready. The gas station was a sad little place on the edge of nowhere, the kind of spot where dreams go to die. I found Lena sitting on a bench outside, looking smaller and older than I'd seen her in years. Doug was pacing by the Lexus, talking angrily on his phone. When he saw my truck pull up, he walked over with a swagger he'd probably been practicing his whole life. Nathan, we need to talk. No, we don't. Look, I know this situation is complicated, but Lena and I have something real. Something you never gave her. I got out of the truck and looked at him. Really looked at him. Without his gym clothes and perfect lighting, Doug Peterson was just another guy in his 30s who'd never learned to work for anything. What I never gave her? I said. You mean like 20 years of marriage, a home, financial security, the chance to build a life with someone who actually loved her? You don't understand her like I do. I understand her fine, and I understand you too. You're a con artist who targets lonely married women and bleeds them dry. Lena's just your latest mark. Doug's face flushed red. That's not true. Really? Then why did you have her paying your bills? Why were you planning to take half of everything in a divorce? If you love her so much, why didn't you get a job and support her yourself? He didn't have an answer for that. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to walk away and never contact my wife again. If I see you near her, near my house, or near my business, I'll have you arrested for harassment and fraud. You can't prove fraud. I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo, Doug and Lena at the hotel, taken through the window by a private investigator I'd hired the week before. I can prove a lot of things, Doug. The question is whether you want me to. He looked at the photo, then at Lena, then back at me. Whatever he saw in my expression convinced him that I wasn't bluffing. This isn't over, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Yes, it is. Doug walked away without another word, leaving Lena sitting on the bench with tears streaming down her face. Get in the truck, I told her. We drove home in silence, both of us knowing that everything had changed. The woman sitting next to me wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger who looked like someone I used to love. When we pulled into our driveway, Mrs. Halpern was waiting by her mailbox, pretending to sort through letters while she watched the drama unfold. Pack whatever you need, I told Lena as we walked to the front door. You can stay tonight, but tomorrow you need to find somewhere else to live. Nathan, please, can't we at least try to work this out? I stopped and looked at her one last time, really looked at her, trying to find some trace of the woman I'd married. Lena, you plan to destroy me. You were going to lie in court, take my business, and leave me with nothing. That's not something you work out. That's something you recover from. She nodded slowly, understanding finally settling in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this. I went inside and left her standing on the porch, surrounded by the wreckage of the life she'd thrown away for a man who'd abandoned her at the first sign of trouble. The next morning, she was gone. She'd taken her clothes and personal items, leaving behind her wedding ring and a letter I didn't bother to read. The Lexus was still in the driveway, keys on the kitchen counter. I sold it the following week and used the money to expand my shop. 6 months later, I heard through Mrs. Halpern that Lena was working at a small marketing firm in the next town over, living in an apartment and driving a used Honda. Doug had apparently moved to Florida, where he was probably running the same con on a new set of victims. I never saw either of them again, and that was exactly how I wanted it. The marriage was over, but I was still here, still working, still building, still moving forward. In the end, that was the best revenge of all, surviving and thriving while they faded into the background of their own poor choices. Some engines can be rebuilt. Others are too damaged to save. I'd learned the difference.